Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar using OpenAI Assistance API for voice-activated financial advisor. My name is Matt Brown, and I will be your moderator for today. Before we begin, just a few logistical reminders. Today's discussion is being recorded. You're currently in a listen-only mode. You can submit questions throughout the session using the Q&A functionality in the lower section of your Zoom console. If this is your first time joining a SingleStore webinar, heads up that we present weekly webinars demoing data and AI use cases and new technologies. In fact, if you like this topic, then heads up that we will be presenting one more AI webinar later this week. Tomorrow, we will be presenting this how to build custom GPTs using OpenAI functions. So this session will delve into how to overcome the limitations of OpenAI's new custom GPTs, such as restrictions on file uploads, static data, and the costs that are therein. So our session will highlight a powerful new SingleStore DB GPT, which will allow you to easily upload and interact with data that's loaded into SingleStore DB via ChatGPT. This is a much more cost-effective, scalable, and performant option for your future AI apps. So if this sounds fun to you, feel free to register right now at the bit.ly that's on your screen. I'll put that in the chat in just a minute. You could also take a photo or a screenshot of that QR code, which will take you to the same place, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Back to today's topic, we would love for you to try out today's technology and what we will be showcasing. In fact, anyone who tries it today during the session will be entered for a chance to win new branded AirPods Pros. All you need to do is visit that bit.ly that's on your screen, the OpenAI Assistance API raffle. And we will check the folks who've logged in and we will announce a winner by the end of today's session. And I will put that in the chat as well. And then heads up that we have awesome technical experts who are joining our Zoom Q&A. They've got a good grasp of the technologies involved. They're ready to answer your questions interactively. So we will try to answer as many questions as they come in. We will also flag some of the questions for live Q&A at the end of the session. So stick around and we can chat then. Allow me to introduce our speakers for today. First up, Akmal Chowdhury is a senior technical evangelist at SingleStore with strong expertise in big data, machine learning, and AI. He is a prolific author and a regular speaker at our weekly webinars on data and AI. And then Ayush Pai is a computer science student at Georgia Tech. You might recognize him from past webinars we've done together on building AI digital referees for basketball, building NVIDIA AI robots, leveraging OpenAI's new Vision API, and more. Welcome to both of our speakers. Welcome to our audience. And Akmal, I'll turn it over to you. I believe you have the floor first.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Matt. And thank you all for joining. Bear with me. Let me just minimize some of these windows here, hide them out the way. So my part is fairly small, actually. So Ayush has got all the interesting, cool stuff that he's going to show you. But we'll just do a couple of slides, a little bit of an introduction to the product, SingleStore DB, 2 slides, I promise, okay? And then we'll move on to the super cool, interesting stuff. Well, not that SingleStore isn't interesting and cool as well. Okay, so we often get asked this question in these webinars. People maybe have come across the product for the first time and like to have a bit better understanding of what it is. And so it is a distributed relational database system. And so if you go back in time, some 20 plus years, a lot of database systems around that time, especially relational systems, very monolithic. And if you want more processing power, essentially buy a bigger box. And so with the advent of distributed technologies such as Hadoop and Spark and this kind of scale out architecture, just add more nodes horizontally, being able to distribute the data, essentially this paved the way for a lot of these NoSQL database systems, which took advantage of some of these capabilities. And for the last sort of 10 years or so, roughly, we've seen the development of these distributed relational database systems now as well, or SQL database systems. So SingleStore is fairly unique in the sense that it started off originally as an in-memory only product, focusing specifically on OLTP. Over the past couple of years, added capabilities for analytics and columnar storage. And now there is a single data type, database type, table type, which allows you to do all of this. Okay, so you can do all of these capabilities, and we've really focused on these things here: this transact, analyze, contextualize data in real time. It does mention here MySQL. Let me just see if I can get squiggly line here. There we go. MySQL compatible. In fact, the product is both MySQL wire compatible and MongoDB wire compatible. So that's something that you might be interested in if you're coming from the NoSQL world and perhaps struggling a little bit with analytics with that product. SingleStore could be something that could really help you in that space. And a little bit more about that in this slide here. All right, so this is kind of like the 30,000-foot view. We often show this because it's a great way to visualize the product and its capabilities. So at its core, we have the product here. This kind of single table type can deal with both OLTP and OLAP. And then we have a variety of ways that we can ingest the data. So I've demoed Kafka previously, for example. I've shown Spark as well, working with SingleStore DB, and then you can use other sources of data as well, such as S3, for example, or Hadoop HDFS if you've got those systems deployed in your environments. There is this concept of pipelines, which you can see this kind of little bit of animation here. I think that's what it's trying to show you, that ingest in parallel at scale from these external systems into the database system. So it works on the 3 major cloud platforms that we have. Okay, so AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. You can also run it on-prem. Okay, so that link that Matt has posted into the chat, if you create an account, literally it's going to be like less than a minute of your time. You can use Google or Microsoft, or just put in your email address and create a password. You'll be given access to the portal. And within the portal on the left-hand side, there's a kind of a navigation pane. Scroll right to the bottom, and whatever organization that you've set up, you will see that there is a section there which has a license. That license allows you to install a 4-node version free of charge, on-prem or in the cloud or wherever you want. Of course, if you want to pay for additional capabilities, that's fine, but that version is a full version. The only restriction there is simply the number of nodes. Okay, but that's a free license that you can use. There is a Docker container as well if you want to use that instead, and those are great ways to really try out the product at very low cost, no cost, and practically no risk either. Although the registering for the cloud version is probably the best way to go, in my opinion. Okay, so stored data types, a couple of words there. So relational, naturally, and we have covered these topics in the past. So the geospatial, a couple of weeks ago, I did the time series, for example, and we'll be looking at some of these again in the very near future. Full text search is available through the Lucene engine, which is built in. Even you could use it for key value if you wish. JSON support has been there for quite some time, and that's improved significantly with SingleStore Kai for MongoDB compatibility, which was released earlier this year. So again, we've covered that in previous webinars, but if that's something you're interested in, just get in touch with us and we can discuss that more with you. And finally, vectors, okay, the hot topic of today. So thanks to OpenAI, I guess you could say, the whole space of ChatGPT and then the development of semantic search and so on in building these RAG type applications. And Matt alluded to some of this as well just a few moments ago. So keep in mind one important fact. A lot of database vendors are adding vector capability today. SingleStore has had this since 2017, all right? So it's not something we just added today just because it's popular and it's what everybody else is doing, but we have customers who've been using this in production environment. It's battle tested. It's been around for a number of years. More good stuff coming in this space as well in the next major release, so watch out for that and the announcements for that as well. Finally, well, penultimate sort of applications, real-time IoT dynamic experiences. Again, we've looked at these in a number of webinars over the past year or so. Dashboards as well. So, there's JDBC, ODBC support. So whatever is your favorite technology, whether it's Tableau or Metabase or something else, you can plug it in directly, build a nice visualization very quickly. Having said that, though, one thing that's not mentioned on this slide is the support for notebooks. So we have that Jupyter notebooks built into the portal as well. So if you want to run some Python or SQL code, you can do so from the web browser and connect directly to the database system. And again, use things like Matplotlib and Plotly and those kind of technologies to create visualizations straight away. And that's a really cool way to really analyze your data and do so in that same integrated environment. Okay, and so with that, I will drop off now and hand over to Ayush, who will talk about all the cool and interesting stuff that he's been working on, and will then show you some of the demos that he's been building. And so I'll be there for the Q&A. Okay, so I'll be answering your questions. So bear with me. Hopefully my internet connection is good today. I've had some problems, so I hope the sound has come across okay. And so there we go. Okay, over to you then, Ayush, and I will stop share there. There we go, and mute.
Awesome. Thank you, Akmal. And I'll get straight into our presentation. So let me share my screen really quickly. Awesome. So thank you, Akmal. And hello, everyone. My name is Ayush Pai, and I am currently studying computer science at Georgia Tech. Today, I'm really excited to share with you the innovative ways in which the OpenAI Assistance API can really transform the realm of personal finance and through voice-activated technology. And in our journey through this presentation, we will really be exploring how artificial intelligence, particularly through voice-activated systems, is really revolutionizing personal finance management. And AI is not just a technological advancement, it's really a personal finance game changer in a lot of ways, with a lot of these new technologies coming out with the OpenAI Assistance API and a lot more, and providing tools and insights that were really previously out of reach for the average customer. And it's really important to start leveraging these technologies as they start coming out, to really maintain like a competitive edge in the market. And the first aspect we'll really be delving into is enhanced personalization. So AI algorithms have been long researched for their unique ability to really sift through vast amounts of data, through some graphing algorithms, through analyzing individual financial histories, spending habits, investment goals. And this has been a pretty hot area of study in the last couple decades. And this isn't just about data processing on a massive scale. With the OpenAI Assistance API, it's really about meticulously crafting advice that's as unique as to the individual serves. And imagine a financial advisor that really knows you better than yourself, able to guide you with recommendations precisely tailored towards your financial situation, with all the context of your financial data, financial history, and market history as well. And this level of customization really ensures that each client receives highly relevant advice, empowering them to really make financial decisions that are super in line with their unique circumstances. And moving on to predictive and analytics for risk management, we can also see that AI really transcends in the conventional boundaries of data analysis. And it's not really just about looking at statistical numbers and making educated guesses. It's about predicting the future of market trends and assessing risks with a degree of accuracy that was once thought to be impossible. And this predictive power with AI, as well as combined with the user's personal data in a conversational voice-activated environment, can really create a way for the user to have a really personalized risk management advisor, to really help them with the tides of risk management and make more informed and strategic financial planning decisions. In the slides to come, we will discuss the greater detail of these capabilities and how we can really leverage the OpenAI Assistance API to make a significant difference in the personal financial management industry. But just before we get into that, let's just get a brief introduction to the OpenAI Assistance API. So this API was released around a week or two ago. It was released at the OpenAI Dev Day. And essentially, this powerful interface is the foundation upon which we can really build bespoke AI assistants that are really designed to seamlessly integrate within your own applications. The Assistants API is more than just a tool, right? It's a gateway that really connects to the vast capabilities of the GPT models. And these AI assistants can really comprehend instructions, process vast amounts of information, and really utilize the integrated knowledge embedded into the GPT models, as well as the tailored data that you're going to use with some of the tools that we'll talk about later to really respond to user queries and make remarkable accuracy in terms of the context. And it's not just limited to simple tasks, but it can really engage in complex interactions, really providing nuanced and contextual responses that are really tailored to each user's needs. So diving into the capabilities and functionalities, the API, Systems API really offers a suite of tools that can really elevate its capabilities. For example, the code interpreter tool is a bridge between like human language and machine code, and it really can enable the assistant to write and understand code. And this is particularly beneficial in automating financial calculations and analysis. And the retrieval tool acts really as an adept researcher, which allows it to fetch relevant information, pool of data from a pool of data, really thus aiding in an informed decision-making process. And lastly, we have the function calling tool, which is really allows the assistant to perform specific actions within an environment or in an application, any custom application that you're building. For example, in our financial example here, you can allow to execute certain trades or update financial portfolios based on the user commands. And these functions are really, really valuable because it allows the assistant to actually start based on its predictive analysis, based on its conversational AI with the user. It can actually start to make actions based on your portfolios. And these tools are really just not add-ons, but they're really integral to creating a dynamic and really interactive financial advisor. And they really ensure that the AI assistant is not just a passive entity, but also like an active participant in managing and optimizing your financial growth. And as we progress, we will explore how these tools can specifically be harnessed to redefine the way that we interact with our finances. So just an overview of how the assistants work. So essentially, they use powerful tools for integration with AI into various applications and enhancing them with capability to understand and respond to natural language. It's really akin to like a co-pilot to your digital ecosystem, and the API front really functions as a bridge, allowing your application to communicate with OpenAI's advanced models, and also gives you access to really customize it in terms of how you want to give it data, and you can also customize how it responds to the user as well. So it's a lot more customizable than most of their all the GPT models, giving it access to really specific data. And in the context of voice-activated financial advisor, this means providing precise intelligence responses to financial queries with a tailored approach. And so here's some of the key terms that are really important to understanding how these assistants are really built on. So we have assistant, thread, message, run, and run step. And I'll just go over a brief overview of what these are. So assistant is just the overlying term for these OpenAI assistants. They're purpose-built AI that OpenAI models and built on these things called tools. They call tools, and we'll go over that a little bit later. And it's really important how they use these tools to actually, make some decisions or actually do some functions as well. Another key term is thread, and essentially a thread is a conversation session between an assistant and a user. Threads really store messages automatically and handle truncation to fit content into a model's context. So it's really handling all of the message history and just all the context for the conversation. So then you have a message, which is created by an assistant or a user. So whenever you have a query to the assistant, it's going to create a message, and it's going to be storing these messages in a list on a thread. So there's messages and then there's threads, and the messages are just in the threads. Then we have run, which is an invocation of the assistant on a thread, and the assistant uses its configuration as part of the thread's messages to perform tasks by calling models and tools. And as part of runs, the assistant appends messages to the thread. And so say, for example, if a user asks like, how's my stock portfolio doing? It's gonna run that thread, which the message is on, and based on that, the assistance API is going to use any tools that it needs. For example, it could use like a CSV file of their financial history or their stock portfolio or JSON file, or it could run Python files to actually acquire that data. So there's a lot that can go on, and you can specify those instructions directly in the assistance configuration, and we'll get into that a little bit. And finally, the run step is a detailed list of steps the assistant took as part of the run. An assistant can call tools or create messages during its run. Examining run steps allows you to really introspect how the system is getting to its final result. And this is actually a really, really important key step. It's important to actually look at these. These are essentially the logs of the assistants. And it's really important to see how the assistants are getting to the spot that they are. And it's important to see like if they're using the user's portfolio, it's actually looking at the JSON file or the CSV file, which has the user's actual portfolio information, and not just making up any random stuff. So you want to see where it's pulling the data from, what files it's running, what automatic functions it's calling, and that's where you can see part of the run stuff, what's actually happening behind the scenes of. It's kind of like the log of the assistant per se. And I have some examples of how the log looks like, and we can play around the playground as well on OpenAI. But just getting started with the assistance API, creating an assistant is honestly really straightforward. Requires you to really specify what model you want. So currently it supports GPT-4, GPT-4, I'm not sure what Turbo, but GPT-4 is definitely supported. GPT 3.5 obviously supported. The one model that's not supported currently is GPT-4 Vision. But that they said that will actually be supported in the near future. That will actually add another level of dimensionality with this assistance API, where you can actually have the assistants actually create or analyze images and do some data analysis on images. But for right now, it's mainly just the GPT-4 and GPT 3.5. But the true magic really lies in customizing your assistant to suit your specific needs. And here's really how you can do that. So firstly, there's these different parameters. These are just the basic parameters we can go over right now. So the instructions parameter, this is the nifty feature that really allows you to guide the personality of the assistant and define its goals. So essentially, for example, if we're creating a financial advisor, this is where you would say, you are a financial advisor. You have access to the stock portfolio. You have access to historical data. Give this user who is querying about their portfolio financial advice on what to do. And that's where you would actually give instructions, specific things to do in a scenario. Secondly, we have the tools parameter. This is where things really get interesting. So you can grant your API or your assistance API access to a suite of over 128 tools. And these tools are actually going to be released by OpenAI over time, but some of the tools that OpenAI already has access to, and you can access as well, is these OpenAI hosted resources such as code interpreter and retrieval, as well as third-party tools via function calling. And imagine having the ability to integrate market analysis tools, budget calculators, or even real-time stock data into your assistant's capabilities. That'll just take it to the next level of what it can actually provide for your user. And that's where you have these tools. And we'll talk about a little bit more of these tools. These tools are really where they actually get the most of their data and where all the magic happens. And lastly is the file ID parameter. And this parameter allows you to provide tools like code interpreter or retrieval specific files to access. These files can be uploaded using the file upload endpoint, or it can be uploaded on OpenAI's website. It's everything. These files are being hosted on OpenAI. And in essence, these customization options really empower you to transform your assistant into really a voice activated guru and really ready to assist users in a complex financial tasks. The assistance API really offers incredible flexibility, allowing you to tailor the assistance functionality to meet your precise requirements. And you can set it up for a lot of scenarios through the instructions parameter. where you can, based on like the type of query that the user is giving, you can have it respond in different ways. So tools are probably the most pivotal and enhancing aspect of the OpenAI assistants, and providing them with valuable context that really allows them to better address client prompts. And it's really important to develop three essential tools that really elevate your voice-activated financial advisor. So the code interpreter, which is an inbuilt environment that actually lets your assistant to execute Python code. So this is really cool because allows it to have its own Python environment where it's running its own code. It's running its own environment, and based on that results of the Python file, it can generate custom reports. It can run financial models, calculate do real-time calculations, and they're all seamlessly integrated into the assistant's response directly into the Python environment that it's running it on. And the second one is retrieval. Retrieval empowers your assistant to extract information from files, turning raw data into actionable insights. So whether it's accessing financial reports, historical stock data, or personalized user data, retrieval allows your assistant to have the knowledge it needs to provide informed financial guidance. Function calling is the final tool, and there's many different types of functions you could activate here. With function calling, you can create custom functions that your assistant can execute, and this opens the door to endless customization, allowing your assistant to perform really a specific tasks based on financial advisory needs, conducting portfolio analysis, or really just general investment recommendations. And these tools are truly the building blocks of crafting dynamic and intelligent voice-activated financial advisors. And by leveraging these tools effectively, you can provide users with comprehensive and really responsive financial advisory experience. So here's Code Interpreter, just a basic rundown of how this works. So essentially, Code Interpreter is a pivotal tool, and it has a secure execution. It runs the code safely, shielding your system from potential risks. And this enables your assistant to provide integrate calculations and execute code while not compromising security. And its an integrated environment allows you to run Python code. And this Python code that it's been running, you might be wondering where that Python code is coming from. So that would be actually, I specified a little bit earlier, through this file ID parameter. And you would just specify which Python file you would want it to run. And I can show that a little bit later on how that works. But yeah, so that's how it's going to be running your Python code, and you can specify multiple files. You can actually add multiple files to that and multiple different file types. And I can get into like what type of file types the assistant actually has capabilities and compatibilities with. But yeah, it's a really great thing to allow you to really run code in the integrated environment and then generate responses based on that. And this tool can process files with diverse data, formatting and generate files with data and images of graphs. If you're doing matplotlib, or if you're anything where you're generating images, it can actually provide that as well. Code Interpreter allows your assistant to really run code iteratively to solve challenging code and math problems, financial problems, financial analysis, and really accessing, for example, if you have a Python file that accesses or Yahoo Finance, for example, or one of these big APIs for accessing financial history, it's a really great tool for running a Python file in an integrated environment, and based on that, making financial decisions. The second tool, which we'll be using in the demo today, is retrieval. Retrieval is a fundamental tool in the Assistants API and really empowers your voice-activated financial advisor with external knowledge through different files. And retrieval allows your assistant to really access information based on its built-in knowledge, including proprietary product data or user-provided documents. And when it's really a great tool for providing a lot more context towards your financial advisor. For example, you could really upload your whole stock portfolio as a JSON file. You could upload like financial history of a certain stock. All this can be uploaded in a certain document. It could be a CSV file. It could be a JSON file. Anything that is compatible with the Assistants API. And you can see here, here's how, just an example through this code on the bottom of this. So it's file equals open knowledge.pdf. So it's opening that file, and it's actually hosting it in OpenAI. And once your file is uploaded, it's actually passed to the assistant, and the OpenAI will automatically chunk your documents, index and store the embeddings, and implement a vector search to retrieve relevant content to really answer user queries. And the model is really uses that. You can actually use that and decide when it wants to retrieve content based on the specific user queries. So if a user asks about should I invest in this specific stock, it might actually not use your portfolio data, but it might actually go to the historical data .csv file. But if it's asking about how can I diversify my investments, it's going to go to portfolio.json instead of historical data. So it'll use the specific data that it needs based on the user queries. And that's why it's a really powerful tool in that context. So function calling is another really powerful tool that allows you to actually create actions directly from the OpenAI assistant. So what sets function calling apart, it's really its intelligence and managing function execution. The assistant's API dynamically determines when and which functions to invoke based on user interactions, and really ensures that your assistant responds effectively to user queries, seamlessly integrating the right functions and precisely at the right time. So these are the three main tools, and now we'll get into, now that we've laid the groundwork, it's time to have an understanding how these OpenAI assistants work. Let's embark into our great journey of actually constructing a sophisticated voice-activated financial advisory system that really takes advantage of this API. So here's some financial data, and this is just a portfolio, for example. This portfolio is just a sample portfolio that I generated, and it's in a JSON file, and it just has a bunch of different stocks, some cryptocurrency at the bottom, and some index funds as well. And this is a sample portfolio that we could feed into the assistant's API as a file for it to actually analyze and give actual data about. So it has some statistics here. It has the ticker, current price, shares, market value, average cost, total return for a bunch of different stocks. And I'm going to show you a quick little demo here of how this is working for when I ask about Microsoft stock and a couple other queries here. So Microsoft stock, if you take a look at it, here's the data for that. And you can see based on this data, see what its response is.
How well is my Microsoft stock doing?
Your Microsoft MSFT stock is performing well. You hold 1,500 shares of MSFT, and the current price is $382.70 per share, bringing your market value to $573,450. You initially invested $550,000, which means you have a total return of $23,450 on your Microsoft investment. This indicates a profitable position in your portfolio for MSFT stock.
How is my cryptocurrency doing?
Your cryptocurrency investment consists of Bitcoin, BTC. You own 0.5 shares of BTC, with the current price being $37,936.00. This puts the market value of your investment at $18,968.05. However, since your average cost was $20,000, you're currently experiencing a total return of $1,031.95, indicating a loss from your initial investment.
Okay, and those are some basic queries. I was just asking about my Microsoft stock and how my cryptocurrency is doing. But later in this demo, we can show some more complex queries and how it can utilize the financial data that it has access to and my whole stock portfolio to give actual financial advice based on how my stocks are doing, etc. Actually, let's go over a technical overview before we go into the nitty-gritty details of how this actually works. And so this overview will really provide like a bird's eye perspective of how the system operates. So the first step is really assistant creation. So we need to initiate the process of crafting our specialized assistant which really uses the financial data and the individual user stock portfolio insights. And this can be done with SingleStore, and the foundational step really equips the assistant with the robust understanding of financial landscape. And I can talk a little bit more how SingleStore is really involved in this in a little slides. And but the next step is the user interaction. And at the heart of our system is user engagement. And we really want to have a seamless experience where the user can talk with the system and get a natural response from, to simulate kind of a financial advisor you're talking to. So users simply express their financial inquiries and preferences through natural voice input, and then it'll make interaction more seamless and user-centric. The next step is speech-to-text conversion. And to bridge the gap between the voice input and the machine understanding, we simply integrate the OpenAI Whisper API. And this is a powerful tool that excels in converting language into spoken language into text, and ensures accuracy and clarity in transcribing user prompts. The next step is the assistance processing. The transcribed user prompt is then handed over to our assistant via the Assistance API. And here the assistant's financial expertise really comes into play with all its data, as all its specific parameters that allow it to become a financial advisor. And it comprehensively analyzes the user's query and generates an insightful and context-aware responses. The next step is the text-to-speech transformation. So we got from the user's voice to the text to analyze it by OpenAI's Assistance API, but now we're going back to sound so the user can actually have a conversation with it. So to do this, we're using the OpenAI text-to-speech API, and this component really converts the textual responses into natural conversation voice output, ensuring really seamless and interactive user experience. And this level of perspective really outlines the synergy between data integration, speech recognition, natural language understanding, text-to-speech synthesis, and our entire voice-activated financial advisory system. And let's dive deeper into each of these components. So setting up the data is a really critical cornerstone of really having this optimal functionality in the Assistance API. And the next couple slides will really explore the process of setting up the essential data pipeline to empower our voice-activated financial advisory system. So first and foremost, to ensure our assistant's proficiency, we need to really get access to reliable and up-to-date financial data. This data really acts as a bedrock for informed financial advice and recommendations. So we can use reputable sources like Yahoo Finance or any other platforms that offer live or historical financial data streams. And this real-time information flow allows our assistant that remains really aware of the market trends, stock prices, economic indicators, etc. And to harness the influx of financial data, we employ the retrieval tool with the Assistance API. This tool is designed to analyze vectorized files, making it adept at really processing complex financial data structures. And by indexing and storing these embeddings, it enhances the assistant's ability to retrieve and utilize relevant financial information in response to our user queries. In essence, the setting of the data is really important so that our assistant really has a big library of financial knowledge. And so that's just setting up the financial data. And here is just a little bit how this is going to be working. So for this example, for this demo, I'm using the Yahoo Finance API. And essentially, you can get a list of stock tickers that you're tracking. Maybe you just get those stocks that are currently in the user's portfolio, or you could get all the stocks based on what you're trying to do. And for each of these stocks, we're going to be storing them into a JSON file, which is really readable by the retrieval tool. Unfortunately, the retrieval tool can only, the best tool for this would be a JSON file. Right now, the retrieval does not have the ability to read CSV files, but hopefully in the future that would be something that OpenAI adds. But CSV files are still be able to read by the code retrieval, but currently only our code interpreter, sorry, retrieval only has JSON access and some other files. I think it has PDF and TXT as well. but CSV would be a really good file to add in the future. So we're storing ticker, current price, previous close, market cap, and PE ratio information. This is really important information for this the financial advisor to have in any situation, especially for our automated financial advisor in this case. So another really important thing to do is setting up the user data. So as you saw earlier, we had this JSON file with their stock portfolio, and this is just a randomly generated stock portfolio with some different stocks in it. And our goal is to really create a financial assistant that can access current stock data and utilize the user's current stock portfolio to make it a really good financial advisor in a lot of situations. So to achieve this, we're implementing a structured approach to incorporate and manage users' specific stock portfolio data using a JSON file. And the user stock portfolio is encapsulated within the JSON structure. Really efficient way to search it. It's great for the retriever tool to actually search through this, and it has data about our current price, shares, market value, average cost, total return, and that can really show the stock health of various stocks in their portfolio. And within this portfolio, we categorize holdings in the three main asset classes: individual stocks, index funds, and cryptocurrencies. And this segmentation really ensures that the financial assistant can comprehensively analyze and provide guidance based on different investment avenues. And this step really is a really important thing for the Assistance API to understand what data that is being ingested into the system and create actual personalized financial advice. So streamlining data ingestion is really important, and efficient data ingestion lies at the core of our voice-activated financial advisory system success. To achieve this efficiency, we turn to SingleStore's vector database, which is a really powerful tool that streamlines the process of handling large volumes of financial data. And SingleStore's vector database offers a game-changing advantage in terms of speed and efficiency, makes it an ideal choice for AI-driven use cases like ours. And when dealing with substantial data sets, especially historical financial data, the benefits of utilizing SingleStore become evident. The key to SingleStore's effectiveness really lies in its ability to vectorize data by converting financial information to vectors and create a format that's not only highly efficient for storage, but really optimized for AI-driven analysis. And this vectorization really simplifies the data access and retrieval process and allows our financial assistant to really access important information swiftly and seamlessly. Furthermore, when you're dealing with extensive historical data, comparing stock prices, economic indicators, and financial metrics utilizing SingleStore's vector database really significantly enhances the assistant's efficiency, and it can ensure that our assistant can really tap into this large amount of historical data and facilitate informed decision-making and comprehensive financial guidance. And overall, SingleStore's vector database really plays a pivotal role in streamlining our data ingestion process and enhances the efficiency and overall responsiveness of our voice-activated financial advisory system. So setting up the Assistance API itself is the next step. And so some of the parameters, we talked about them earlier, but here are a couple more. We need to, first of all, create a really good prompt for the instructions. This is kind of like prompting ChatGPT or prompting GPT-3 or 4. And this is where you actually, we're not actually giving them the query here. This is actually giving them the specific instructions. So you are a financial assistant to do X, Y, Z. And I'll show that on the next slide. But here's some of the other parameters. So we have name, instruction, model, tools, file IDs. Name is just the name of your financial, or the name of your assistant. It can be anything you want. You can have the instructions, which we'll talk about on the next slide. The model, which is the specific model you're using from OpenAI. The tools, which you're specifying which tool you want to use. You can use multiple tools up to 128. And the portfolio, which the files, and you can use multiple files here as well. As you can see in this example, I'm using the portfolio of the user and I'm using the stock info. So here's an example of how you would give the assistant some instructions, right? So instructions are really important to enable the assistant to do specific tasks based on data and make it tailored towards your specific use case. And here's the specific for this demo. I gave it this specific instruction set, And basically it says you are a financial assistant, use the data about the user's stock portfolio to give them advice about how their finance is doing. Use each stock, index, fund / crypto in the file that has this information, and I gave the specific information that's listed in the JSON file. And that way that it can understand exactly what it's interpreting in terms of the JSON file and use that information directly to give them specific financial advice. So getting the user's voice as input is the next step. And we're doing this by doing adaptive listening and recording. So basically, essentially starts recording as soon as it starts to hear a specific loud noise or ambient noise levels raising, and it uses a threshold to ensure that it starts recording exactly when it needs to. What it does, it's intelligent speech detection where it really monitors the audio input, and it identifies when the user stops speaking. So then when there's a silence, it uses the threshold to end the recording, and then it saves that to an MP3 file. Once it gets that input, it's going to use the OpenAI Whisper API to generate the user prompt. And this is a really important key step because we're taking the user's voice, which is a really key step in creating a conversational AI. So we're taking the user's voice and we're translating it to text. But now we're doing that using the OpenAI Whisper API. And this really opens the audio file and sends it to the Whisper API, or you could have the downloaded model, which is specifically designed to handle various speech nuances and background noises. And it generates the entire transcript for what the user's query is. And that's directly fed into, but before we do that, we have SingleStore's actual user prompt storing. And this is really important as well for additional context. So obviously our threads we were talking about earlier are a service context for the user's previous responses, and gives the whole assistant gives it a like a context of what they've been talking about, so they can tailor it based on that context. But SingleStore really allows you to preserve user prompts in this real-time database, and typically the threads close once a conversation ends. But with SingleStore DB, we can really transcend this limitation. It can allow the assistant to access reference to previous context points at any point, and it doesn't matter if the conversation was closed. It doesn't matter. So you can use context over time and really give financial advice tailored towards their context based on like previous sessions. And as a result, our system really excels in offering continuous and contextually informed and financial guidance, and enriching the user's experience overall, and enabling more meaningful and personalized interactions. So then you would use the assistance API, obviously, to generate the response and generate the output TXT. And this is based on the user's input that was generated by converting it to text with the OpenAI Whisper API. And so we put that exact prompt from the user into the assistant. And this is a really major aspect of our workflow, because this is where we actually generate the assistance API a response, which is going to be what their financial advice is going to be based on these parameters we were talking about earlier. Then we're going to be testing out the assistance API and the OpenAI Playground. So this is a really important thing to do. You can use the OpenAI Playground, which is a really nice user interface where it has logs to allow you to see what the assistant is doing, and allows you to see what tools it's actually used to create the responses, which is really important to see it's using the right data to give you the right responses. You want to see if it's using your portfolio for specific stock information about your portfolio, or it's using historical data. Whichever file it's using, you can see that through the logs. And this is the log can also be pulled programmatically, and I was talking about it earlier with the run. So we can explore that as well. So here's what the Playground looks like. I encourage you all to test it out. OpenAI, that's on OpenAI's website. And the Playground is really a great way of just testing out financial assistant. So essentially you can name the financial assistant, or you can name the assistant, financial assistant in this case. And based on that, it gives you the assistant ID below that, and you can put that directly into your code, which can actually, so you can create your assistant here with this nice UI, and then actually go back and integrate that directly into your code. So you can give it its instructions. I showed the instructions earlier, and you can choose the specific model you want to use, and you can choose the tools. So you have access to the functions you can create, the code interpreter, or retrieval. In this case, I'm using retrieval, and I attach the file for my specific stock portfolio. In this case, I asked, how's my portfolio doing? And it gives this huge response of like how my portfolio is doing based on the JSON file. And another query here is, I said, how is my Microsoft stock doing? It says it's doing well, you're holding 1,500 shares and etc. But here's what's really great, where you can see the stocks, or you can see the run status, and you can see everything that it did, and you can see the status is completed, started the time, start time, end time, etc. You can see the instructions. But this is the really important part here. It's file ID, tools, and seeing if it actually accessed the tools. And it's saying it used the file here, and this was the file which was actually the portfolio.json file. And so once you have your response from OpenAI assistant, then you would want to just make it do text-to-speech. And OpenAI also has a text-to-speech platform API where you can generate the voice, and you can choose a specific voice. In this case, I'm using the Alloy voice, and setting the text into natural sounding speech, enhancing the user experience, and really have a realistic voice output. And obviously it's not perfect. There were some inconsistencies in the voice, as you heard, but I'm sure their API for text-to-speech will get better over time. And obviously there's many more options for text-to-speech APIs out there as well. So then it'll generate the audio file, and then it will just play back the generated speech. And that's how you can create from the user actually inputting their voice using the OpenAI Whisper API to take that and create text, put that into the assistance API, then go from that assistance API to the text-to-speech and create a response. And that's how you create conversational AI. And you would loop that over time. So here is the same example of the portfolio. I'm going to show you some more use cases with another video. And I'll be asking some more specific questions here about how I can improve my stock portfolio, or what's wrong with my stock portfolio, etc. And so, yeah, I have these stocks here, and I have this index funds. And as you can see, my stock portfolio, just off the bat, you can already tell it's pretty technological focus. I only have tech stocks mainly, and it's not very diverse. And let's see what its response is based on that.
What is wrong with my current stock portfolio?
Your portfolio shows a number of stocks and index funds with a current market value below the average cost, resulting in unrealized losses such as AAPL, Google, NVDA, TSLA, JPMS, S&P 500, NASDAQ, and BTC. It may benefit from diversification and a review of investment strategies to mitigate losses and optimize returns.
Should I put 50% of my portfolio in Bitcoin?
Putting 50% of your portfolio in Bitcoin would not be advisable, as it would significantly increase your exposure to the high volatility and risks associated with cryptocurrencies. Diversification is key to managing risk. It's better to maintain a balanced portfolio across different asset classes.
Should I invest more in Apple?
Apple APL is currently showing a loss in your portfolio. Consider its future growth potential and diversify your investments rather than concentrating more on a single stock.
What should I invest in?
As a finance advisor, I would advise reviewing your risk tolerance and investment goals before making any decisions. It's also important to consider diversifying further into sectors and assets that are underrepresented in your current portfolio to spread out risk.
What sectors are too overrepresented in my portfolio?
Your portfolio is heavily weighted towards technology, with stocks like AAPL, Google, NVDA, AMZN, ADE, MSFT, and the NASDAQ index fund representing a significant portion. Additionally, the inclusion of TSLA adds to the tech-oriented risk profile, despite being categorized under consumer goods.
Oh, okay. And so that's just a really cool demo right there. And I showed some more advanced questions in these queries here, and it was able to do a pretty good job in some of them. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect yet, and the more data that you feed it over time, the better it will be. And I saw a question in the chat about hallucinations and giving wrong financial advice. And obviously, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but it's also completely dependent on the data that you give it, the financial data that you actually give it, have access to. If it has more financial trends in the past with a lot more historical data, it can give you some better analysis. But obviously, it's not going to be perfect. And like it's still going to be based on what it's querying, and the whole retrievals API, or the whole retrievals tool is actually finding the correct part of the file that it wants to find based on like your query. So there's a lot of cases where if it actually has the specific data that's looking for, or it finds a specific trend, it can actually answer it pretty well. And just to answer like the future of financial advice, obviously 24/7 customer engagement, conversational AI really enables the around-clock customer service, and real-time query resolution guidance really allows the Assistant API and other LLM assistants to understand and respond to a wide range of customer queries, and personalized financial advice and recommendations that can be integrated directly into financial dashboards and portfolios, etc. And just to end it off, just techniques on integrating conversational AI into financial systems. Exploring alternative large language models would also be great. While the OpenAI assistant is not yet ready for massive scalable systems, as just a brand new API. It came out a couple of weeks ago, but companies can explore other LLMs such as Llama 2 by Meta. These models can be really customized to create specialized assistant APIs, offering a viable alternative. And OpenAI Assistants is really a great tool to get started, obviously, with prototyping and using advanced database technologies for training AI models such as Llama can be really useful with SingleStore, and SingleStore is a great tool for these vector databases and handling large data sets of complex queries, and really enabling faster and more effective training of AI models. And yeah, that's pretty much it for this demo, and we can get into some questions. I don't think we'll have time for code walkthrough specifically, but we can send out that code for the GitHub. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Ayush. I think we have time. I'll do two kind of compilations of we've got a lot of questions, but I'll try to combine some that I've seen. The first I'm going to pose to Akmal, and it's kind of, there's been a couple questions about vector databases and, what is SingleStore's value proposition? How is it different from vector databases? Why would you use it in AI use cases? So Akmal, I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about SingleStore's value proposition. I'll put it there.
Okay, quickly then, Matt. I know we're almost at the top of the hour there. So essentially, think about this. Vectors by themselves, I mean, what are you storing? It's just arrays. There are products out there that just do specifically that, and they are storing just vectors, okay? Typically in an enterprise environment, though, there's other things that you want to query your database system for. And think about this. So SingleStore allows you to do a full text search as well. So you can combine full text search with semantic search, okay? That's one great application. Or you could do a mixture of SQL and Python and other things as well, and other data types as well. Geospatial, time series, we kind of covered this earlier. So there's a wide range of use cases that you may have, of which vectors is just a subset. I mean, that may be one aspect of what you're trying to store. So all the demo stuff that Ayush was showing, for example, storing the vector aspect of that is great, but what about if you want to store sentiment data, for example? That is a totally different sort of kettle of fish, if you see what I mean. Okay, so there is the real proposition. As an enterprise product, you want to do more than just vectors. And I think this is where the product really shines.
Awesome. I'll do one more quick question before we announce the AirPods winner. And Ayush, I'll pose it to you. There was a couple of questions about limits on the number of files or types of files or total size of the data that you can use. And I remember us talking, before we got on about how I've been running into, the max limit windows of of OpenAI every like hour or something. So I wonder, I know there's the single store side of things in terms of you can do lots, you can upload tons of
Yeah.
different data types, but I wonder if you could talk about any sort of limits or, maxes that you have ever run up against on the OpenAI side.
Yeah, so I personally did not run into any limits while I was building this out, but there are definitely limits. They're listed on the OpenAI website, and for specific file types, I can give you a brief walk down. If you can still see my screen, hopefully.
Yes.
So if I go to here's the documentation. It's a great tool for learning about these assistants, and you can go to assistants. Should be somewhere here. And you can, based on this, you can go to tools. So should be tools right here. And here are the specific file types that it actually can support. So the code interpreter can actually support a lot more files, but the retrieval, which is actually where it's actually retrieving data based on your stock portfolio, etc. It can support these files. So .c, C++, doc files, HTML. Unfortunately, I don't know why it doesn't support CSV, but hopefully that'll be in the future because that's very useful for stock data. But yeah, here are some, and the limits should be here somewhere. I just didn't find them, but they should have them listed as well.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. Quick note before we announce the AirPods winner. Reminder that tomorrow we are presenting how to build custom GPTs using OpenAI functions. Should be a really good session. I just put the bit.ly link to register in the chat. So feel free to register now, and hopefully I'll see you there tomorrow. And then the announcement you've been waiting for, Chris Hayes, Director of Data Science at Aviso in Ontario, Canada. You are the winner of today's Apple AirPods. Congrats. If that's not you, don't give up. We're going to give out one more AirPods by the end of the day to anyone who tries out SingleStore. You can, try it out while doing Ayush's demo. I put the GitHub in the chat. I will also be emailing that out to you. Actually, did I put that in the chat? I'm going to put that in one more time for folks that want that. And then, of course, I will also be emailing this out, like I said, along with the recording of this webinar. And thanks a lot. Hopefully I'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks, Ayush.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everyone.